Life is eternal. We all live on a stage where many infinities gather. Just take a look outside tonight and contemplate the infinity of space. There are stars so distant from you that they're measured in the distance that light travels in an earthly year. Beyond those stars that you can see are endless galaxies that stretch out into something we call eternity. Indeed, the space that you occupy is infinite. Its vastness is too huge for us to see. We are in an infinite, never-ending, never-beginning universe. Now pay close attention to this next sentence.
Hey there, Vision Clarity family. Quick pause because I've got something exciting to share with you today. I've discovered a program called The Language of Abundance that I believe can truly enhance our journey towards manifestation and abundance. This program is all about unlocking the power of positive thinking and attracting wealth into your life. It's simple, easy to follow, and has been praised by many for its effectiveness. Check out the link in the description below to learn more and get your hands on this life-changing tool today. Remember, we're all about growth and positivity here, and I believe this could be a great step forward for many of us. Stay blessed and keep manifesting. Now let's get back to our session.
If life is infinite, then this is not life. Really let these words sink in. If life is infinite, then this is not life. We can see this in everything that we scrupulously observe. Therefore, we must conclude that life, in terms of our body and all of its achievements and possessions, which without exception begin and end in dust, isn't life itself. Grasping life's true essence could radically change your life for the better. This is an enormous inner shift that eliminates fear of death. How can you fear something that doesn't exist? And connects you permanently to the infinite source of creation that intends everything from the world of infinite spirit into a finite world. Learn to be comfortable with the concept of infinity and see yourself as an infinite being. Your fear of the infinite. We are all in bodies that are going to die, and we know this, yet we can't imagine it for ourselves, so we behave as if it weren't so. It's almost as if we're saying to ourselves, everybody dies but me. This is attributable to what Freud observed. Our death is unimaginable, so we simply deny it and live our lives as if it weren't going to die, because of the terror that our own death instills. As I sat down to write the chapter on infinity, I said to a friend that my goal was to leave the reader, and you, the listener, with a complete absence of the fear of death. Let me know if it touches you in that way, even on a minor scale. Your own death. Essentially, there are 2 points of view regarding this dilemma of your own death. The first says that we're physical bodies that are born and we go on to live for a while, and then ultimately we deteriorate. Our flesh wears out and then we die and are dead forever. This first perspective, if you embrace it either consciously or otherwise, is terrifying from our alive point of view. Unless you embrace the second point of view, it's completely understandable that you would fear death. Or you may welcome it if you hate or fear life. The second point of view says very simply that you're eternal, an infinite soul in a temporary expression of flesh. The second point of view says that only your physical body dies, and that you were whole and perfect as you were created, and that your physicalness emanated from the universal mind of intention. That universal mind was and is formless. It's the pure energy of love, beauty, kindness, and creativity, and it can't die since there are no forms involved. No form, no death, no boundaries, no deterioration, no flesh, no possibility of it wasting away. Thus, spirit is present in its entirety everywhere, which includes you. You can never be separate from it. You'll learn to laugh at the absurd idea that you could ever be separate from the universal mind. It's your source. You are it. God is the mind through which you think and exist. It's always connected to you, even if you don't believe in it. Even an atheist doesn't have to believe in God to experience God. The question then becomes not whether your body is going to die, but rather on what side of infinity do you wish to live? You have 2 choices. Either you live on the inactive or the active side of infinity. In either case, you have an appointment with infinity, and there's no way to avoid it. Your appointment with infinity. Eternity is now, right here. You're an infinite being. Once you get past the fear of death as an end, you merge with the infinite and feel the comfort and relief that this realization brings. We identify everything in this material world through a space-time continuum. Yet infinity has no preference for time and space. You aren't the elements that make up your body. You merely make use of the elements. You go beyond space and time and are merged with the infinite universal mind. If you haven't recognized it, it's because of your fear. You can keep your appointment with infinity while you're in your temporary body with its slavish adherence to time and space. My objective in this chapter is to help you to realize and do this. If you make this merger, I assure you of a life without fear of death. When your infinite soul leaves the body, it's no longer subject to the constraints of time and space. Separation can no longer interfere with you. So my question to you isn't about whether you believe you have an appointment with infinity, it's about when you're going to keep that inevitable appointment. You can either do it now while you're still alive in your body in the illusion of time and space, or you can do it at death. If you decide to make your appointment with infinity while you still live and breathe, it's like learning to die while you're alive. Once you make this transition to the active side of infinity, your fear of death dissolves and you laugh at the folly of death. Understand your true essence. Look death squarely in the face and break the shackles of slavery to that fear. You do not die. Announce it. Meditate on it. Look at it from this angle. If you're not an infinite being, what would be the purpose of your life? Surely not going through the motions of being born, working, accumulating, losing it all, getting sick, and dying. By waking up to your infinite essence and staying connected to the 7 faces of intention, you begin to free yourself of the limitations your ego has placed on you. You set in motion the guidance and assistance of the infinite universal mind to work with you. And most of all, you feel the peace that overtakes you when you expel your fear of death and mortality. I'm touched by the stories of great spiritual teachers leaving this earthly plane feeling blissful and fearless. They banished all doubt, extricated all fear, and met infinity head-on with grace. Here are the final words of a few of the people I've long admired. The hour I have long wished for is now come. Teresa of Avila. Let us be kinder to one another. The last words of Aldous Huxley. If this is death, it's easier than life. The last words of Robert Louis Stevenson. This is the last of earth. I am content. John Quincy Adams. I shall hear in heaven. Ludwig van Beethoven. Light, light, the world needs more light. Johann von Goethe. I am going to that country which I have all my life wished to see. William Blake. It's very beautiful over there. Thomas Edison. Ram, Ram, Ram. God, God, God. Mahatma Gandhi. Why not write your own final words now and make your transition to being an infinite being while you still occupy your body? As you consider your appointment with infinity, look at how most of us live our lives. We know we're in a body that's going to die, but we behave as if it's not going to happen to us. This viewpoint is from the inactive side of infinity, where we don't see our connection to intention and our ability to stay in harmony with our creative spirit. Let's examine the essential difference between keeping your appointment with infinity now or at your own death. In one case, you'll be on the active side of infinity, and in the other, you'll avoid it by being on the inactive side. The active versus the inactive sides of infinity. On the active side of infinity, you're fully cognizant that you're in a body that's going to die. Furthermore, your inner knowing is that you aren't that body, its mind, or any of its achievements and possessions. On this active side of infinity, you are first and foremost an infinite spiritual being having a temporary human experience, and you do all of your living in all of your relationships from this very perspective. On the inactive side of infinity, your experience of life is quite the opposite. Here, you're first and foremost a human being having an occasional spiritual experience. Your life is guided by a fear of death, a separation from others, a competitive style, and a need to dominate and be a winner. The inactive side of infinity separates you from the power of intention. Here are some of the distinctions that I see between those who live in the active side of infinity and those who deny their eternal nature and opt for the inactive side of infinity. A sense of destiny. In the active side of infinity, your connection to intention will no longer be thought of as an option, but as a calling that you must heed. The inactive side of infinity leads you to see life as chaotic, purposeless, and meaningless, while your position on the active side of infinity leads you to fulfill a destiny that you feel deep within you. Your sense of destiny lets you know that you're playing this game of life on the active side of infinity. Prior to accessing your sense of destiny, your motivation was what you wanted out of life and what you'd like to do. On the active side of infinity, you realize that it's time to do what your destiny intended you to do. Wallowing around hoping things will work out, waiting for your luck to change, and hoping others will come through for you no longer feels right. Your sense of destiny allows you to realize, I am eternal, and that means that I showed up here from the infinitude of spiritual intention to fulfill a destiny that I must act upon. You begin stating your objectives in the language of intention, knowing they'll materialize. You enlist the power of intention to keep you on track. It can't fail because there's no failure in the infinite. This 13th century poem may inspire you to know you have a destiny. You were born with potential. You were born with goodness and trust. You were born with ideals and dreams. You were born with greatness. You were born with wings. You are not meant for crawling, so don't. You have wings. Learn to use them and fly. That's Rumi, one of my very favorite poets. If Rumi had composed his poem from the inactive side of infinity, his words might be more like the following, quote, "You are an accident of nature. You are subject to the laws of luck and chance. You can be pushed around easily. Your dreams are meaningless. You are meant to live an ordinary life. You have no wings, so forget about flying and stay grounded." A sense of the possible. Creation acts upon the everlasting possibility that anything that is thought of can be. Consider some of the numerous great inventions which we take for granted today. Airplanes, electric lights, telephones, television, fax machines, computers. They're all the result of creative ideas by individuals who ignored the ridicule they encountered while they stayed focused on possible rather than impossible. In other words, a sense of the possible grows in the fertile terrain of the active side of infinity. The power of intention involves staying on the active side of infinite possibilities. George Bernard Shaw, who was still creating into his 90s, has been quoted as saying, "You see things as they are and you say why, but I dream things that never were and I say, why not?" Think of Shaw's words as you practice staying on the active side of infinity and seeing the infinite possibilities that are available to all of us. A sense of awe. You have to admit that just the concept of infinity is awesome. No beginning, no end, everywhere at once, no time, and all of it here and now. The fact that you're a part of this infinite universe and that you emerged into the finite is mind-boggling. It defies description. The active side of infinity inspires a sense of awe. When you're in a state of awe, you're in a persistent state of gratitude. Perhaps the surest way to happiness and fulfillment in life is to thank and praise your source for everything that happens to you. Then, even when a calamity arises, you can be assured that you'll turn it into a blessing. By giving authentic thanks for all the good you now have, as well as the challenges, through this magnetism, you'll start the flow of more good into your life. Every successful person I know is grateful for everything they have. This process of giving thanks opens the door for more to come. It's how being an active infinity works. Your sense of awe at all of the miracles you see around you allows you to think, see, and live more of these miraculous occurrences. In contrast, a state of ingratitude stops the infinite flow of abundance and health. It's a door closer. A sense of humility. The active side of infinity fosters a sense of humility. When humility enters your soul, you know that you're not alone in this world because you sense the heart of the power of intention, which is in each and every one of us. To quote the Talmud, "Even if you be otherwise perfect, you fail without humility," unquote. When you embrace the active side of infinity, you're looking at something so enormous that your little ego is dwarfed in the process. You're looking out at forever, and your little life is but a tiny parenthesis in eternity. One of the reasons for so much contemporary depression and ennui is the inability to see ourselves connected to something greater and more important than our own puny egos. Young people whose primary focus is on their possessions, their appearances, their reputations with their peers, in short, their own egos, have very little sense of humility. When the only thing you have to think about is yourself and how you appear to others, you've distanced yourself from the power of intention. If you want to feel connected to your own purpose, know this for certain. Your purpose will only be found in service to others and in being connected to something far greater than your body, mind, ego. A sense of generosity. If asked, "Why do you give us light and warmth?" I believe that the sun would answer, "It's my nature to do so." We must be like the sun and locate and dispense our giving nature. When you're on the active side of infinity, giving is your nature. When you're on the inactive side of infinity, you view life in terms of shortages, and hoarding becomes a way of living. Generosity, as well as the inclination to reach your intentions, is lost when you think in these terms. If you can't see an infinite universe with infinite supply and infinite time and an infinite source, you'll be inclined to hoard and be stingy. The power of intention is paradoxically experienced through what you're willing to give to others. I love Swami Sivananda's advice, and I encourage you to consider it here. Everything that he suggests, you own in infinite amounts. He put it this way: the best thing to give your enemy is forgiveness. To an opponent, tolerance. To a friend, your heart. To your child, a good example. To your father, deference. To your mother, conduct that will make her proud of you. To yourself, respect. To all men, charity. Make giving a way of life. It is, after all, what source and nature do eternally. I've heard it said about nature that trees bend low with ripened fruit, clouds hang down with gentle rain.
Thanks for watching. Before we wrap up, I want to remind you about the Language of Abundance program I mentioned earlier. It's a game changer for anyone on a manifestation journey. Simple, effective, and designed to help you attract prosperity. If you're ready to take your journey to the next level, click the link below. Remember, we're all about positivity and growth here. So let's keep manifesting and creating the life we desire. Until next time, stay blessed and keep your vision clear.
It is my intention to live my life on purpose. A sense of purpose is at the very top of the pyramid of self-actualization created by Abraham Maslow more than 50 years ago. Through his research, Dr. Maslow discovered that those who feel purposeful are living the highest qualities that humanity has to.
Hey there, Vision Clarity family. Quick pause because I've got something exciting to share with you today. I've discovered a program called The Language of Abundance that I believe can truly enhance our journey towards manifestation and abundance. This program is all about unlocking the power of positive thinking and attracting wealth into your life. It's simple, easy to follow, and has been praised by many for its effectiveness. Check out the link in the description below to learn more and get your hands on this life-changing tool today. Remember, we're all about growth and positivity here, and I believe this could be a great step forward for many of us. Stay blessed and keep manifesting. Now let's get back.
During the many years I've been in the fields of human development, motivation, and spiritual awareness, this is the topic that more people inquire about than anything else. I'm repeatedly asked questions such as, how do I find my purpose? Does such a thing really exist? Why didn't I know my purpose in life? Well, being on purpose is what the most self-actualized people accomplish on their life journeys. But many individuals feel little sense of purpose and may even doubt that they have a purpose in life in the first place. Feeling purposeful. In response to the question, what should I do with my life? I suggest that there's only one thing you can do with it, since you came into this life with nothing and you'll leave with nothing. You can give it away. You'll feel most on purpose when you're giving your life away by serving others. When you're giving to others, to your planet and to your source, you're being purposeful. Whatever it is that you choose to do, if you're motivated to be of service to others while being authentically detached from the outcome, you'll feel on purpose, regardless of how much abundance may flow back to you. Allow yourself to be in the feeling place within you that's unconcerned with such things as vocational choice or doing the things you are destined to do. When you're in the service of others or extending kindness beyond your own boundaries, you'll feel connected to your source. You'll feel happy and content knowing that you're doing the right thing. Outside of my chosen occupation, I feel purposeful in a myriad of ways virtually every single day. When I extend assistance to someone in need, when I take a moment to cheer up a disgruntled employee in a restaurant or a store, or when I make a child laugh who sits otherwise ignored in a stroller, or even when I pick up a piece of litter and place it in a trash can, I feel that I'm giving myself away, and as such, I feel purposeful. Essentially what I'm saying here is this: stay on purpose by expressing the 7 phases of intention, and the details will find you. You'll never, ever again have to ask what your purpose is or how to find it. Your purpose will find you. In a previous chapter, I reviewed the obstacles to connecting to intention and pointed out that our thoughts are one of the major roadblocks. I stressed that we become what we think about all day long. What thoughts do you have that inhibit you from feeling as if you're on purpose in your life? For instance, if you think that you're separate from your purpose and that you're drifting without direction throughout your life, then that's precisely what you'll attract. Suppose instead that you know this is a purposeful universe where your thoughts and your emotions and your actions are all a part of your free will and are also connected to the power of intention. Suppose that your thoughts of being purposeless and aimless are really a part of your purpose. Just as the thought of losing someone you love makes you love them even more, or an illness makes you treasure your health, supposing that it takes the thought of your unimportance to make you realize your value. When you're awake enough to question your purpose and ask how to connect to it, you're being prodded by the power of intention. The very act of questioning why you're here is an indication that your thoughts are nudging you to reconnect to the field of intention. What's the source of your thoughts about your purpose? Why do you want to feel purposeful? Why is a sense of purpose considered the highest attribute of a fully functioning person? The source of thought is an infinite reservoir of energy and intelligence. In a sense, thoughts about your purpose are really your purpose trying to connect to you. This infinite reservoir of loving, kind, creative, abundant energy grew out of the originating intelligence and is stimulating you to express this universal mind in your own unique way. Your silent inner knowing. Esteemed psychologist and philosopher William James once wrote, quote, "In the dim background of our mind, we know meanwhile what we ought to be doing, but somehow we cannot start. Every moment we expect the spell to break, but it does continue pulse after pulse, and we float with it," unquote. In my experience as a therapist and as a speaker talking with thousands of people about their lives, I've come to the same conclusion. Somewhere, buried deep within each of us, is a call to purpose. It's not always rational, and it's not always clearly delineated, and sometimes even seemingly absurd, but the knowing is there. There's a silent something within that intends you to express yourself. That something is your soul. It's telling you to listen and connect through love, kindness, and receptivity to this power of intention. That silent inner knowing will never leave you alone. You may try to ignore it and pretend it doesn't exist, but in honest, alone moments of contemplative communion with yourself, you sense the emptiness waiting for you to fill it with your music. It wants you to take the risks that are involved and to ignore your ego and the egos of others who tell you that an easier, safer, or more secure path is best for you. My daughter Sky is an example of what I'm presenting here. Sky has known since she could first speak that she wanted to sing. It was almost as if she showed up here in the world with a destiny to sing for others. Over the years, she's sung at my public appearances, first as a 4-year-old, and then at every age up until her 22nd year. She's also sung on my public television specials, and the reaction to her singing has always been gratifying. As a student immersed in a music program at a major university, Sky studied from academic and theoretical perspectives. One day in her junior year, we had a discussion that centered on her purpose and the silent knowing she's always had. "Would you be upset," she asked of me, "if I left college? I just don't feel like I can do what I know I have to do by sitting in a classroom and studying music theory any longer. I just want to write my own music and I want to sing. It's the only thing I think about. It's what my whole life is, but I don't want to disappoint you and Mom." How could I, who tells his readers not to die with their music still in them, tell my 22-year-old daughter to stay in college because that's the right way, and it's what I did? I encouraged her to listen to the silent knowing that I've seen evidence of since she was a toddler, and to follow her heart. As Gandhi once said, "To give one's heart is to give all." This is where God exists in Sky, and in you. I did ask Sky to make a supreme effort to live her purpose by serving those who will listen to her music, rather than focusing her attention on becoming famous or making money. I said, "Let the universe handle those details." I reminded her, "You write and sing because you have to express what is in that beautiful heart of yours." I then asked her to think from the end and act as if all that she wanted to create for herself was already here, waiting for her to connect to it. Recently, she voiced dismay at not having her own CD out in the world, and she was acting with thoughts of not having a CD out in the world. Consequently, no CD and lots of frustration. I strongly urged her to start thinking from the end by seeing the studio being available, the musicians ready to collaborate with her, the CD as a finished product, and her intention as a reality. I gave her a deadline to have a CD completed that I could make available at my lectures. I told her that she could sing to these audiences as she has done sporadically in her life, as well as on my public television pledge shows. Her thinking from the end materialized everything she needed, and the universal spirit began to work with her unbending intent. She found the studio, the musicians she needed magically appeared, and a publisher agreed to produce the CD. Sky worked tirelessly day after day, singing her own favorites, as well as several that I had wanted her to sing at my appearances. including Amazing Grace, the Prayer of St. Francis. It's in every one of us, and her own composition, Lavender Fields, which she sings from deep pride and passion. And lo and behold, today her CD, titled This Sky Has No Limits, is now out and is being offered to the public whenever she sings at my lectures. Sky's presence on the stage with me brings so much joy and love to the presentation because she's as closely aligned with those 7 faces of intention as any human being I've ever known. Inspiration and purpose. When you're inspired by a great purpose, everything will begin to work for you. Inspiration comes from moving back in spirit and connecting to the 7 faces of intention. When you feel inspired, what appeared to be risky becomes a path you feel compelled to follow. The risks are gone because you're following your bliss, which is the truth within you. This is really love working in harmony with your intention. Essentially, if you don't feel love, you don't feel the truth, and your truth is all wrapped up in your connection to spirit. This is why inspiration is such an important part of the fulfillment of your intention to live a life on purpose. You may think it's too risky to give up a salary, a pension, job security, or familiar surroundings because of a dim nightlight in your mind that draws you to see why it's turned on. I suggest that there are no risks at all if you pay attention to that light, which is your knowing. Combine your strong knowing with the faith that Spirit will provide, and you acknowledge the power of intention at work. You are a divine, infinite creation, making the choice to be on purpose and to be connected to the power of intention. It all revolves around your being harmoniously connected to your source. Again, it all revolves around your being harmoniously connected to your source. Faith eliminates the risk when you choose to trust that inner knowing about your purpose and become a channel for the power of intention. Making intention your reality. Below are 10 ways to practice fulfilling your intention to live your life on purpose from this day forward. Step 1. Affirm that in an intelligent system, no one shows up by accident, including you. Know that you are here on purpose. This is not the same as knowing what you're supposed to do. Throughout your life, what you do will change and shift. In fact, the changes can occur from hour to hour in each day of your life. Your purpose is not about what you do. It's about your beingness, that place within you from which your thoughts emerge. This is why you're called a human being rather than a human doing. Affirm in your own words, both in writing and in your thoughts, that you are here on purpose and intend to live from this awareness at all times. Step 2. Seize every opportunity, no matter how small, to give your life away in service. Get your ego out of your intention to live a life on purpose. Whatever it is that you want to do in life, make the primary motivation for your effort something or somebody other than your desire for gratification or reward. Do it from the perspective of making a difference for someone or for some cause, and let the universe handle the details of your personal rewards. Live your purpose, doing what you do with pure love. Then you'll co-create with the power of this universal mind of intention, which is ultimately responsible for all of creation. Step 3. Align your purpose with the field of intention. This is the most important thing you can do to fulfill your intentions. Being aligned with the universal field means having faith that your Creator knows why you're here, even if you don't. It means surrendering the little mind to the big mind and remembering that your purpose will be revealed in the same way that you were revealed. Purpose, too, is birthed from creativeness, kindness, love, and receptivity to an endlessly abundant world. Keep this connection pure, and you'll be guided in all of your actions. The universe will respond with the identical energy by asking you, "How may I serve you?" Step 4. Ignore what anyone else tells you about your purpose. Regardless of what anyone might say to you, the truth about your feeling purposeful is that only you can know it. And if you don't feel it in that inner place where a burning desire resides, it isn't your purpose. Your purpose is between you and your source. And the closer you get to what that field of intention looks and acts like, the more you'll know that you're being purposefully guided. You might have 0 measurable aptitudes and skills in a given area, yet you might feel inwardly drawn to doing it. Forget the aptitude test results. Forget the absence of skills or know-how. And most important, ignore the opinions of others and listen to your heart. Step 5. Remember that the all-creating field of intention will work on your behalf. Albert Einstein is credited with saying that the most important decision we ever make is whether we believe in a friendly universe or a hostile universe. It's imperative that you know that the all-creating field of attention is friendly and will work with you as long as you see it that way. Know that the universe is always willing to work with you on your behalf, and that you're always in a friendly rather than a hostile world. Step 6. Study and replicate the lives of people who've known their purpose. I've always been fascinated by Saul of Tarsus, later called St. Paul, whose letters and teachings became the source of a major portion of the New Testament. I was also deeply touched by the purposeful manner in which St. Francis of Assisi lived his life as exemplified in the novel St. Francis by Nikos Kazantzakis. I make it a point to use my free time to read about people who are models for purposeful living, and I encourage you here to do the same. Step 7. Act as if you're living the life you were intended to live, even if you feel confused about this thing called purpose. Invite into your life every day whatever it might be that makes you feel closer to God and brings you a sense of joy. View the events you consider obstacles as perfect opportunities to test your resolve and find your purpose. Treat everything from a broken fingernail to an illness, to the loss of a job, to a geographical move, as an opportunity to get away from your familiar routine and move to purpose. By acting as if you're on purpose and treating the hurdles as friendly reminders to trust in what you feel deeply within you, you'll be fulfilling your own intention to be purposeful yourself. Step 8. Meditate to stay on purpose. Use the technique of japa, which I mentioned earlier, and focus your inner attention on asking your source to guide you in fulfilling your destiny. Many people have written to me about their success with staying on purpose through the practice of japa meditation. I'm deeply touched when I read about those who use japa, or the repetition of the sound of the name of God, to help them achieve their divine mission. Step 9. Keep your thoughts and feelings in harmony with your actions. The surest way to realize your purpose is to eliminate any conflict or dissonance that exists between what you're thinking and feeling and how you're living your days. If you're in disharmony, you activate ego-dominated attitudes of fear of failure or disappointing others, which distance you from your purpose. Your actions need to be in harmony with your thoughts. Trust in those thoughts, which harmonize, and be willing to act upon them. Refuse to see yourself as inauthentic or cowardly, because those thoughts will keep you from acting on what you know you are meant to be. Being in harmony with God's will is the highest state of purpose you can attain. And as always, step 10, stay in a state of gratitude. Be thankful for even being able to contemplate your purpose. Be thankful for the wonderful gift of being able to serve humanity, your planet, and your God. Be thankful for the seeming roadblocks to your purpose. See all of the jobs, successes, apparent failures, possessions, losses, wins, everything from a perspective of gratitude. Be grateful for the opportunity to live your life purposefully, in tune with the will of the source of all. That's a lot to be grateful for. It seems to me that searching for our purpose is like searching for happiness. There is no way to happiness. Happiness is the way. And so it is with living your life on purpose. It's not something you'll find. It's how you live your life serving others and bringing purpose to everything you do. That's precisely how you fulfill the intention that is the title of this chapter. When you're living your life from purpose, you're dwelling in love. When you're not dwelling in love, you're off purpose. Your goal in accessing the power of intention is to return to your source and live from that awareness, replicating the very actions of intention itself. That source is love. Therefore, the quickest method for understanding and living your purpose is to ask yourself if you're thinking in loving ways. Do your thoughts flow from a source of love within you? Are you acting on those loving thoughts? If the answers are yes, and yes, then you're on purpose. I can say no more.
Thanks for watching. Before we wrap up, I want to remind you about the Language of Abundance program I mentioned earlier. It's a game changer for anyone on a manifestation journey. Simple, effective, and designed to help you attract prosperity. If you're ready to take your journey to the next level, click the link below. Remember, we're all about positivity and growth here. So let's keep manifesting and creating the life we desire. Until next time, stay blessed and keep your vision clear.
Thank you, thank you. My name is Wayne Dyer, and
I'm 72 years old, and I have sex almost every day. Almost on Monday, almost on Tuesday, almost. Anyway. That was Jack LaLanne's opening for 20 years until he was 94 years old. So I borrowed it from him. My mother passed away 2 days ago. And I didn't, she was 96 years old and in a coma the last few days of her life. But it's an interesting passage. I thought it would be, I remember my introduction to a different kind of psychology was brought to me by a man named Abraham Maslow back in 1962. And I was fortunate enough to be able to study with Dr. Maslow, and he really introduced me to a different way of looking at how to help people and how to improve the quality of our own lives. It was a turning point for me, and one of the things he spoke about were these people that he calls self-actualizing people, which, if you remember Maslow's pyramid and the hierarchy, and you go from your basic needs to the very top of the pyramid. The very top of the pyramid is something called self-actualization. And he described self-actualizing people. One of the flaws of self-actualizing people is that they get over death almost as if it didn't happen. They have an awareness within them that nothing dies, that everything that materializes, of course, changes form. But there is something. My teacher in India, his name was Swami Muktananda. Many of you have read, and he was asked the question, "What is real, Master? What is real?" And Muktananda said, "That is real, which never changes. Everything else is illusion." So I've been looking at, I've been thinking about Muktananda and thinking about Dr. Maslow, who passed away on the 7th of June, 1970. And that was the same day that I was walking across the stage in Detroit at Cobo Hall, receiving my PhD, in almost the same hour. It was as if he had said to me, "I've explained this whole idea of self-actualization to the academic world. Now you explain it to the cab drivers and the school teachers and the nurses and the yoga students and everyone else. This whole idea that there is a higher place where each of us can reach right here while we're here." And I've been thinking about all of this since my mom left. And there's pictures of my mom all over my apartment on Maui. I have pictures of her on the wall when she was 10 years old in 1926. And another picture of her reading a poem that she wrote when she was 12 years old in 1928 about the election that year. Any of you remember the election that year? 1928. "Smith or Hoover, who will it be? Both are running for the presidency. Smith is the thin one, Hoover's the fat. My, such an uproar." Where are we at? That was my mom at 12. And I have pictures of my mother at 30, and I have a picture of her sitting on my lap on her 75th birthday. And I look at that pictures and I say, which one of them is my mother? Was she that 10-year-old? According to Muktananda, that is real, which never changes, and all of us are here in bodies that we believe is who we are. We're totally convinced of it. I was in a 21-year-old body, and I can't find any part of it anywhere on the planet. But while I was in it, I was absolutely convinced that this is who I am. And then I moved into another body, and another body, and another body. And the same is true for each and every one of us here, that there is some part of us that is infinite, that is the soul, that is the spirit. It makes no difference what you call it. Many of you know that I wrote a book about 7 years ago after living the Tao Te Ching for a full year. It's called Change Your Thoughts, Change Your Life. And I took each of the 81 verses of the Tao Te Ching, and I took a full year. I began on January the 1st, 2005, and I read verse 1. And I would take 4.5 days, 4 days to contemplate it, think about it, meditate on it, try to understand it. And then in the half day that I had, I would look at a painting of Lao Tzu from 2,500 years ago. And someone had channeled this painting and sent it to me from my radio show. And I don't do any writing now without him looking at it. And I just sort of gaze at this drawing that this person imagined Lao Tzu to be. And it speaks to me. And I would write an essay. The Tao Te Ching, some call it the wisest book ever written. Someone once sent me a copy of a book called Jesus and Lao Tzu. And on the left-hand side of the page were all the sayings of Lao Tzu. And on the right-hand side of the page were all the sayings of Jesus that mirrored what Lao Tzu had said 500 years before his birth. Now, I'm not saying Jesus was plagiarizing, but I am saying there are eternal truths. And these eternal truths come to me directly out of the Tao. And I did this for each of the 81 verses of the Tao. And the opening line of the Tao Te Ching says, the Tao that can be named is not the Tao. As soon as you try to define this invisibleness that is within each and every one of us, that keeps occupying these new bodies all the time, while the body continues to change, who we are is infinite. So I wrote a few words out about what I think of as the soul. Let me just share them with you. The ideal of the soul, this part of you that is never changing, this part of you that is infinite. And that word infinite is a very important word to think about because it's the opposite of finite. Finite means something begins and ends. If it didn't end any place or didn't begin any place, we wouldn't be able to call it finite. We would say it is always continuing. The minute that it stops, the minute we have a form to it, the minute we place anything on it that is associated with this physical corporeal world that we all live in, it moves from the infinite to the finite. So to try to define that which is infinite with a brain or a mind that is finite is an impossibility. Lao Tzu knew this and understood this. It's why meditation is such an important part of the process of coming to our highest self, coming to know who we are. It's the place where there are no beginnings. Herman Melville once said that God's one and only voice is silence. Is silence. It's the one place where there's nothing finite there. And Blaise Pascal, the famous French philosopher and scientist, once said that all of man's troubles stem from his inability to sit quietly in a room alone. But most of us just aren't comfortable with this because we have come to believe and trust in the evidence for who we are is on the basis of that which we can touch and see and feel and smell, what our five senses tell us. But our five senses lie to us. William Blake pointed that out beautifully in one of his poems back in 1777. He said, to see the world in a grain of sand, and a heaven in a wildflower, to hold eternity in the palm of your hand, and infinity in an hour, we are all led to believe a lie. When we see with, not through the eye, which was born in a night, to perish in a night, while the soul slept in beams of light. We are all infinite beings in a temporary human experience. I've said it over and over again. Whenever people ask me what's my very favorite quote, my very favorite observation, it came from Pierre Teilhard, the French priest who was excommunicated from the Catholic Church for his outrageous ideas. He said that we're not here as human beings having a spiritual experience. It's the other way around. We are all infinite spiritual beings having a temporary human experience. And coming to a place where we live our lives from that infinite place and beginning to know our soul, it's one of the reasons why I accepted an invitation to come here. I do yoga myself 5-6 times a week. I know the significance of it for me in my own body and my own health, my own life, my own emotional state. I know that when I meditate, I'm better. I know that when I do yoga, I'm healed. And so I came. So getting to know the soul, the spirit, and not identifying ourselves on the basis of our physical senses. It's the essence of my newest book, which is a PBS special called Wishes Fulfilled. It's the whole message behind all of it, is to really come up with a specific way to come in contact with this infinite part of ourselves. Now remember, if it's infinite, it doesn't stop any place. It doesn't start any place. That's by definition infinite. So if something doesn't start and doesn't stop, what is it doing? It has to be expanding, doesn't it? The minute it stops expanding, it's finite. We're no longer talking about the soul. We're talking about what Blake said, we see with, not through our eyes. So here's what I jotted down. The ideal of the soul, the thing that it asks for, is neither knowledge, nor light, nor happiness. The ideal of the soul is space, immensity. The one thing it needs, more than anything else, is to be free to expand and to reach out and to embrace the infinite. Yeah, the ideal of the soul is infinity, because that's what the soul is. It is miserable when it is circumscribed or restricted in any way. Now, I have 8 children, 6 beautiful daughters and 2 sons. And one of the things that I know, I used to say that before I had children, I had 8 theories about how to raise children. And now I have 8 children and no theories. All right? But one of the things I know about children is that no one likes being told what to do. And this isn't just children, this is all of us. One of my favorite songs is a song from when I was back in high school. Oh, give me land, lots of land, and the starry skies above. Boy, you know it. Don't fence me in. Don't restrict me. Don't put boundaries on me. Don't tell me what I can do and what I can't do. Don't tell me how to be there. Don't tell me what to wear, what to think. Don't tell me how to do yoga. Don't tell me, I don't want to be told. This is the soul speaking, always. The soul is constantly having a desire to expand and grow. And anything or anyone that comes into your life that attempts to do that, you will find yourself fighting it and reaching back. Particularly will you find this in your yoga practice. Yoga, the word yoga means what? Union. Union with what? Your highest self. Union with God. This is what the highest self is. It's the part of you, the place within you that is not worshiping God. That's what religion has brought to us and taught us, that God is outside of us. It's the part and the place within you that knows that at your highest level, you are God. Each and every one of us. And when you are connected to the highest place within yourself, when you are connected to the God that you are, you have all the powers of the creative source of the universe. You become the Tao. The Tao becomes you. So, yoga, or union, is really a way of becoming a manifester. Now, in order to become a manifester, someone who was able to attract and place into their lives what they place their attention on, there are certain, we saw a lot about something called The Secret not too long ago, on all the newspapers and magazines and on the news and always. And I was asked to be a part of that and stayed away from it for different reasons. Because for me, manifesting is not about attracting what you want. Manifesting is an awareness and an understanding that you attract what you are. I have been studying in depth something called the I Am discourses. And I'll share just a little bit about it here. But one of my very favorite quotes, this is from Unveiled Mysteries, says, "The attitude of one person who wishes to work in conscious cooperation with the ascended host, with God, should not be, I wish I could go to them for instruction and pray to God or the source, that from which we all originated." T.S. Eliot said, "We shall not cease from exploration. But at the end of all of our exploring will be to return to the place from which we originated and to know it for the first time." Now, the poet was speaking about dying. leaving the body. I'm not. I think we can come to know that place from which we originated and live from it. And then the words that Jesus spoke to us in the book of John, that even the least among you can do all that I have done and even greater things. It was Jesus who said, when he was about to be stoned for blasphemy, and he said, "Why would you stone me?" And they said, "You blaspheme. You claim to be God. You are a man." And he said, "Is it not written in your laws that I have said, you are gods, all of you?" The infinite place within you that needs to expand and wants to grow, that which we call your life. I mean, when my mother died, she was down to about 85 pounds. But if they were to weigh her the second before she died, and then weigh her the second after, her body weighed exactly the same. And yet, she was no longer alive. So her life, that what we call her life, is weightless. It's formless. It has no beginning, it has no end. You can't weigh it. How can you weigh that which has no form? So your life, the thing that we call your life, is God. That's what you are. That's what every single one of us are. So here's what Saint Germain said. The attitude of one who wishes to work in conscious cooperation with the ascended host should not be, "I wish I could go to them for instruction," but rather, "I will so purify, discipline, and perfect myself and become such an expression of divine love and wisdom and power, then I can assist in their work. Then I will automatically be drawn to them." If you want to attract into your life what it is that you feel is missing, then what you have to do is to become like these great ascended masters. I honestly feel that I spent the first 10 years of my life in a series of foster homes and orphanages. My father walked out on his family and left my mother with 3 boys under the age of 4 when she was 23 years old. And so I had a great blessing in those earliest years of my life to be able to go within and discover something that I came here to teach, which is self-reliance. To learn how to rely upon ourselves. And I honestly feel that I'm right now writing on a book. It was very hard for me to leave Maui and get on that plane and fly to Sacramento and take a car up here and all of that. Not because I don't think it's beautiful here but I'm where I belong anyway, so I stopped fighting all of that stuff anyway. But it was because I'm in the midst of writing. And I'm writing a book called I Can See Clearly Now. And it's sort of like a memoir, except that it's a look at all of what seemed like just isolated events that showed up in my life, which led me to the next step, which led me to the next, which have arrived here in 2012 at the age of 72. And as I write this, and I've written almost 50,000 words in the last 6 weeks, it's almost like an obsession, because it isn't me writing. It is me as writing. It is something that is, Lao Tzu said, none of you are doing anything. He said, you're all just being done. You ever have a sense of that when you look in the mirror? And you look at your body and you say, what the hell is going on here? I say, what's this chicken neck stuff? Where the hell did that come from? What am I doing with hair growing out of my ears? And so that doesn't need it. I could use it up here, but it's... And you have a sense that in this physical world, that there's nothing for you to do. Just keep this thing that houses your soul in as healthy a space as you can, but basically it's doing what it's doing. And you, inside of there, the infinite you, is just an observer to the whole process. And isn't that one of the things that we learn in our very first yoga days? It's just, don't be so attached to your body and what it can do and how it hurts to try to do that. And can I balance myself here? And can I do a downward up or down or whatever the hell they call all of those things that are out there? I just do Bikram, so it's... So there's a sense of this awareness. So because of the time, I mean, I usually take 3 or 4 hours, or sometimes 3 or 4 days to go through this, and I'm trying to do this in a brief amount of time. The reason that most of us cannot reach this exalted state that I want to present to you in the limited time that we have is because we have come to believe in our limitations. We've come to believe in our ordinariness. We've come to believe that who we are is not God, is not divine. All right? So in order to transcend that mentality, you have to sort of reprogram your subconscious mind. Your subconscious mind is the mind that is doing virtually everything that you do. It's the mind that got you here into this room, that put your mat down, that got you dressed this morning, that get your breakfast. When you get in the car, you don't think about, oh, how do I start this thing, and how do I got to make a right turn here. Do I slow down? Do I not? You all programmed your conscious mind, programmed your subconscious mind to do all of these things on automatic. And according to my friend Bruce Lipton, about 96 or 97% of what we do all day long, every day of our lives, 24/7, is done by our subconscious mind. So we have been programmed to believe in our ordinariness. I don't know if you saw my most recent PBS special, but I opened it up with a little story from Portia Nelson, so I'll just share it here with you if you haven't seen it. If you have PBS, you probably have, because that's about all they play. And I'm very proud of that, and we've raised close to $250 million for public television. So, since 1999, it's been amazing. So this was something that Portia Nelson, who I knew, who passed away a few years back, 10 years back now. She lived up in Seattle. And she was at a seminar, and they were asked to write the autobiography of their life in five verses, 5 chapters. So, and they gave them only like cards this size. Actually, they were smaller than this. They were 3 by 5 cards. So write out chapter 1 of your life and just go to where you are today. And I remember doing this very same thing, but what she wrote was so brilliant that I asked her daughter if we could put it on public television, which I did on the most recent show, and we made a contribution to Portia's work. So this is what she wrote down in the chapter 5 of her life. Chapter 1, she said, I walk down the street. There's a deep hole in the sidewalk. I fall in. I'm lost. I'm helpless. It isn't my fault, and it takes forever to find a way out. Chapter 2 of my life. I walk down the same street. There's a deep hole in the sidewalk. I pretend I don't see it. I fall in again. I can't believe I'm in the same place. It isn't my fault. It still takes a long time for me to get out. Chapter 3 of my life. I walk down the same street. There's a deep hole in the sidewalk. I see it there. I still fall in. It's a habit. But my eyes are open. I know where I am, and it is my own fault. And I get out immediately. Chapter 4 of my life. I walk down the same street. There's a deep hole in the sidewalk. I walk around it. Chapter 5 of my life. Finally, I walk down another street. Isn't that great? So what In the time I have left, I want to talk to you about walking down another street. And this other street is a street in which you have an awareness that not only do you have a physical body, but you have come to believe that this physical body is who you are, and that you have locked yourself into these five senses and decided that whatever evidence they provide for you is how you identify and define your reality. By what I see, by what I hear, by what I smell, by my life what looks like, by how much money I have, by the stuff that I possess. And this is the world of the ego, and this is the world of the false self, according to my teacher, Nisargadatta Maharaj in India, who passed away in 1986. The false self is the ego. The ego is the part of us that has come to believe that who I am is defined by these six things. Who I am is what I have. And so we spend a big hunk of our life attempting to get as much stuff as we possibly can. The Tao teaches something very different. Let go of everything you have. When I moved to Maui in 2005 full-time, I gave up everything that I owned. Everything. 20,000 books, all of my photographs, records of every description, furniture, all the things in the house, all my clothing, shoes. It was all donated to people who lived on underneath a bypass in Florida. And let go of all of it. So the ego teaches us you are what you have. The Tao teaches us let go of everything that you have. Do less and accomplish more. One of Lao Tzu's most famous observations was, I do nothing and leave nothing undone. My son has taken to becoming a spiritual Taoist. Every time I tell him to do something, he says, I do nothing. And I leave nothing undone. But there's much wisdom in that. I could go on into that. The second thing that the ego teaches us is that who I am is not only what I have, but who I am is what I do, what I accomplish. And so we spend a big hunk of our lives believing that the way that we become, quote, successful, happy, fulfilled, self-actualized, whatever it might be, is on the basis of what I accomplish, what my resume looks like, how many promotions I get. And so we send our children off to school and we ask them to learn to identify themselves on how much they get and what they accomplish. Your grades become more important than what it is that you are studying. What you own, what clothes you wear, what labels you have, and so on. And we become obsessed with this kind of absurdity. And this is the false self at work. The third thing that the ego teaches us is that I am what other people think of me. I am my reputation. So becoming obsessed with our reviews, what people think of us, other people's opinions, getting the approval of others. We talk about peer group approval needs and so on. I have 8 children that aren't concerned about those things. They were never raised with that kind of a mentality. The whole idea of trying to please other people was something that they consistently heard from their mother and myself, that this isn't important to us. We're not attached to that. And this kind of an attachment. So the Tao teaches us that what you think of me is none of my business. What the ego teaches us is that what you think of me is the most important thing that I have, and so I'll do whatever it is that I need to do in order to get you to agree with me, to like me, to approve of me, and so on. The fourth thing that the ego teaches us, this false self, is that who I am is separate from everyone else. And so we are raised in this world of the false self, which teaches us that we have to be in competition with everyone else. We have to defeat someone else. Being number one is the most important thing, and you see people doing this all the time at football games and at and you'll see it when the Olympics come up, that the gold medal is more important than anything else. And you'll see people weeping and sobbing over this idea that I have to be better than somebody else in order to be fulfilled in my life. The fifth thing that the ego teaches us is that I am separate not only from everybody else, but that I am separate from what's missing in my life. The Tao teaches us that there is no place that God is not. If there is no place that God is not, then God must be in you. And if there is no place that God is not, then God must also be in all that I perceive to be missing from my life. And therefore, in order to become a manifester and to attract into my life what I want, I simply have to realign myself. I have to rejoin. I have to yoga myself to God. And the most egregious error of the ego is a belief system that says that who I am is separate from God, that God is something outside of me. We have not been raised to understand and believe that at our basic core, what Lao Tzu called our original nature, what we are is love. And all we have to do is be that and live that. There was a great Indian poet. His name was Rabindranath Tagore. And he received the Nobel Prize for Literature in 1913 for a collection of poetry called the Gitanjali. And in that poem, that long poem, 90-some verses, one of those verses says this. He's speaking of the ego. He said, I went out alone on my way to my tryst. But who is this me in the dark? I step aside to avoid his presence, but I escape him not. He makes the dust rise from the earth with his swagger. He adds his loud voice to every word I utter. He is my own little self, my Lord. He knows no shame, but I am ashamed to come to thy door in his company. That's a great poet. And that's a great piece of truth. That in order to get to this place, I speak about, that Maslow spoke to me about and trained me to think about, called self-actualization, is that we have to stop evaluating who we are on the basis of those ego identifiers, and instead begin to see ourselves as divine love, as pieces of God. The Native Americans used to say that no tree has branches so foolish as to fight among themselves. And look at us. Look at what happened just down the road from here in Colorado a few days ago. What is it about us that we have to create instruments of death in order to feel good about ourselves? What is it about us that we have to destroy each other and be in competition with each other and even create things called weapons? It's why Lao Tzu left the place where he left in ancient China at the time of the Warring States. And a big part of the Tao, something like 31 verses out of the 81 verses, speak to the absurdity of having weapons and killing each other. He said that every death in battle should not be celebrated, but should be mourned, because it gives evidence that we have not reached this place and understand what T.S. Eliot was speaking, this place from which we originated, this place to which we shall return. From A Course in Miracles, I jotted this down the other day. The memory of God comes to the quiet mind. It cannot come where there is conflict. A mind at war with itself remembers not eternal gentleness. What you remember is a part of you, for you must be as God created you. Let all this madness be undone for you, and return in peace to the remembrance of God, still shining in your quiet mind. Coming to know God, it's not about discovering something that resides outside of you. It's about remembering what's inside of you and living from that place. I don't believe that God is interested in us loving God. I believe God is interested in us loving each other and figuring out a way to do this regardless. And that's why I pray so hard for the idea that we will have people, especially in this election year, who will stand up and have the balls to say, it's time to stop making these weapons of mass destruction. And they are weapons of mass destruction. The idea that somehow in our Second Amendment we are entitled to have weapons that kill 100 people a minute. How far is that going to go? Now they're talking in Syria about using chemical weapons on their own people. Does the Second Amendment provide for us, to all of us, if we want to use chemical weapons to protect ourselves? I mean, how far does this absurdity go? Anyway, that's my rant. I'll get off of that. The way to this higher place within ourselves is understanding two very important words. These words are the basis for a children's book that I've just done called I Am, Why Two Little Words Mean So Much. Any moms right here in the front? You a mom? Here, would you like to have this for your baby? You're welcome. God bless you. Namaste. So, let me just take you back for a few moments here. Back before Lao Tzu. Now, Lao Tzu was here on this planet at the time of the Warring States in China in 500 BC, approximately the same time that the Bhagavad Gita was also being created in India, the Song of the Lord. 800 years, 8 centuries before that, 1,300 years before the birth of Christ, comes one of the most ancient, if not the most ancient spiritual texts extant on the planet today. It's called the Torah, the first 5 books of the Old Testament. In the second book of the Torah, Exodus, Moses is, well, you know the story of Moses, but if you don't, let me refresh you. At the time of Moses' birth, the Pharaoh, who had held so many of the Israelites captive and enslaved, had ordered that all male babies to be born from Israelite mothers, because he had heard that there was someone coming that could be a danger to his power. He ordered that all male babies be executed. Well, Moses' mother gave birth, and she just couldn't stand the idea of this baby being killed by the soldiers. So she wrapped him up in a blanket and put him in a basket must have been waterproof, and floated him down the Nile. Moses, this little baby, was discovered by a woman who captured him, picked him up, and fell so in love with him that she decided to raise him as her own. It turns out that this was the daughter of the Pharaoh. So Moses' grandfather is the Pharaoh who has ordered him to be killed, but he doesn't know this. At about the age of 18, Moses gets into a fight, and with one of the people, one of the soldiers who is trying to actually punish and kill one of the Israelites. And so Moses fights him and kills him and has to run away because he knows what his punishment will be. He runs away to the Sinai, and for the next 40 years, he is a shepherd. He marries a woman named Zipporah. They have all of these children. He's a shepherd. He's out wandering about, according to this ancient text. One day, he comes across a bush, a burning bush. But the bush is not being consumed. It is just continuing to burn. And he looks at this, and suddenly the bush begins to speak. And as legend tells us, this is God speaking to Moses and saying to Moses, I have some instructions for you. I'll give it to you the way it is written. I just love this. So God calls out to Moses from this bush and says, Moses, Moses. And Moses responds with the words, here I am. These are the first words he speaks to God. Do not come closer, he said. Take your sandals off your feet, for the place where you are standing is holy ground. Then he continues, I am the God of your father, the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, the God of Jacob. Moses hid his face because he was afraid to look at God. So God gives him this instruction. You are to go and free the people of Israel. So Moses says to God, who am I that I should go to Pharaoh and that I should bring the Israelites out of Egypt? He answered, I will certainly be with you, and this will be the sign to you that I have sent you. When you bring the people out of Egypt, you will all worship God at this mountain. Then Moses asked God, if I go to the Israelites and say to them, the God of your fathers has sent me to you, and they ask me, what is his name? What shall I tell them? Now, the only place in all the spiritual texts where God gives his name is right here in this passage. Same name that you have. God replies to Moses, I am that I am. This is what you are to say to the Israelites. I am has sent me to you. God also said to Moses, say this to the Israelites, Yahweh, the God of your fathers, the God of Abraham, and this is my name forever. This is how I am to be remembered in every generation to come, which is our generation. All right? So, the name of God is I am, that I am. Now, every time you use the name I am, you are using the name of God. How do you use this name? Do you say, I am sick? Many of you know that I have been diagnosed with leukemia. And I generally start out my talks by saying, I am well. I am perfect health. I am that. I am. That is my affirmation. That is how I live. That is how I breathe. That is how I believe. Now, in the book of Joel, there's a line that says, let the weak man say, I am strong. Now, one of the things that I want to leave you with here in the time that I have with you today is for you to become conscious of how you use this term, I am. I have a CD, along with my friend James Twyman, that is, what they did with this is, it comes from the Moses Code, which is a book I encourage you to look at, by James Twyman. And what they did is they took the sound in Hebrew of the letters that mean I am that I am. Supposedly this is what God said to Moses. And they have associated the sound with what those letters meant back 1,300 years before the birth of Christ, or 3,300 years ago, and come up with the sound. The sound is a meditation that I do every day. And what I recommend that you do, you want this, don't you? Oh, you have it? Oh, you have it, great. All right, you got it. So what I encourage you to do in terms of manifesting, before I get into the principles, is to take out a piece of paper sometime when you're at home, and it sounds like a silly thing to do, but I want you to do it. And I want you to write at the top of that page the word that, T-H-A-T, that, okay? And under that heading, whatever it is that you would like to attract or manifest into your life, I would like you to just write that down, all right? So if it's a job that you want, if it's a relationship that you want, if it's a healing that you want, if it's abundance that you want to attract into your life, whatever it is, just place it underneath that. And come to a place in your life where it is spoken about in the book of Romans, in the New Testament. He calls those things which do not exist as though they did. You must be able to get to this place in your life where you don't use the evidence of your senses, what your eyes tell you, what your ears tell you, what your stomach tells you, what you see written down, what the internet tells you. You want to be able to be in a place where you are living from the end as if what you would like to manifest is already there. To make a future dream, a present fact, you must assume the feeling of that wish as already being fulfilled. And the sounds that you will hear on track 2 and 3 of this meditation are the exact sounds of what those words were spoken back there 3,300 years ago. All I can say to you is that so many incredible miracles have manifested into my life since I began practicing this meditation. Who did I promise this to? Somebody? Yeah, there. Okay, stand up. Come on up. This is a gift to you. There you are. Enjoy it. God bless you. Yeah. So, this arrived in my home about a year before I started writing Wishes Fulfilled. And it's called the I Am Discourses. The I Am Discourses are, I think, one of the great spiritual texts on the planet today. You can pick it up, especially Volume 3. It's published by the Saint Germain Press. Saint Germain is, I believe, because I'm a student of Yogananda, and Sri Yukteswar, his teacher, who was born on the same day I was in only 1855 instead of 1940, like me. And they speak about this saint that is capable, who always keeps a young body. His name is Babaji. How many have heard the name Babaji? Yeah, this is an audience. I don't have to ask that. Saint Germain is Babaji, in my opinion. This is someone who shows up in a young body. And when you read Ascended Masters Training, The Unveiled Mysteries, The Magic Presence, and the I Am Discourses, which I have read all of them and studied them before I actually channeled Wishes Fulfilled. But let me just share with you just something here at the very beginning of it. This I can do without glasses. Life, in all its activities, everywhere manifest, is God in action. Remember what I said earlier, the life in your body is weightless, and it is God It is what you originated from. It is what you will return to. It is where my mom is right now. And it is only through lack of the understanding of applied thought and feeling that mankind is constantly interrupting the pure flow of that perfect essence of life, which would, without interference, naturally express its perfection everywhere. Saint Germain has come to me. I feel as if I have spoken to him. And one of the things that I know from Saint Germain, from Babaji, is that it's only 1 in a million people who spend any amount of their time giving thanks to the I am presence that is your very essence, your being. Not giving thanks for all of the bounty that you have in your life and for your health and for all of the nice things, but to be in a state of gratitude for the awareness that who you are is this divine essence, this divine being. And when I do the meditation, one of the things that I say is I am in a state of continuous gratitude for the I am presence that speaks through my mouth and through my body and through my writing and so on. It's staying in constant contact with the awareness that there is something divine that is what I am. And every time I use this word, I am. The natural tendency of life is love, peace, beauty, harmony, and opulence. This, by the way, is what Lao Tzu said as well. For life cares not who uses it, but is constantly surging to pour more of its perfection into manifestation, always with that lifting process which is ever inherent within itself. I am is the activity of that life. How strange it is that students with sincere interest do not seem to get the true meaning of those two words. When you say and feel, I am, you release the spring of eternal, everlasting life to flow on its way unmolested. In other words, you open wide the door of its natural flow. When you say, I am not, you shut the door in the face of this mighty energy. I often tell my audiences, God didn't say when Moses asked, what is your name and who shall I say sent me? He didn't say, my name is I hope things work out for you. He said, my name is I am that I am. That meaning, when he says I am that, that was Nisargadatta's great autobiography or biography, and a book that I have studied for 30 years now. And he was known as the I am guru in India. And these two words, I am, have so much power within them. I am is the full activity of God. Having placed before you so often the truth of God in action, I wish you to understand its first expression in individualization, in you. All right? The first expression of every individual everywhere in the universe, either spoken word, silent thought, or feeling, is I am, recognizing its own conquering divinity. The student, endeavoring to understand and apply these mighty yet simple laws, must stand guard more strictly over his thoughts and expression in word or otherwise. For every time you say, I am not, I cannot, I have not, you are, whether knowingly or unknowingly, throttling that great presence within you. So, could God say, I am depressed? Could God say, I am sad? Could God say, I am unhappy? I am miserable? Not possible. And every time you say that, you blaspheme. Because when you use the words I am, you are in union, you are in yoga with God. So when I do my yoga practice, and there's certain of these postures and asanas that I have a little more difficulty with others, especially balancing ones and so on. Before I start the asana, my inner meditation is, I am well balanced. I am perfect balance. I can do this. I am perfect balance. And as I do this, I begin to see that I am speaking to this body. And what is this body? It is nothing more than something temporary that is always changing, so it's not even real. Now, there's a book that I brought here with me. And if you don't buy anything here, and I don't care if you do, I didn't even bring them. Somebody else brought them. So, but there's a book here that I would really love you to read. And if you haven't read it, I was blessed to be able to give this to my mom to read about 6 months before she passed on. And it just brought a sense of peace to her. The book is called Dying to Be Me: My Journey from Cancer to Near Death to True Healing, by Anita Moorjani. I wrote the foreword to this book. Mira, this love of mine right here with the glasses on, who just did a past life regression, who did a past life regression with me that's in Wishes Fulfilled, which completely turned my life around in so many ways, brought something off the internet to me about this woman. She was wheeled into a hospital in 2005. Her weight was down to about 82 pounds. She had lymphoma throughout her entire body. She had tumors the size of lemons, over 24 of them, throughout her entire body. She was in a coma. She had tubes coming out of her and wires and so on. And her husband was there, and her mother was there, and they were there to just say her last rites. This was to be her last night on earth after 5 years of the steady growth of lymphoma. While in this coma, she had what is called an NDE, a near-death experience. And in this near-death experience, she came into contact first with her father, who had passed away 10 years before, and then she had an opportunity to have a vision about what her life could be. And she saw her medical records there, which indicated that she was to die tonight. And she also saw them change right before her eyes, where she had no cancer. No one in the history of the world, as far as we know, has ever been at this end stage of cancer and ever survived. That's how far she was gone. If you saw the pictures of her that I have seen when she was in that state, you wouldn't think that anyone could possibly survive that. She was told that she could go back into her body and she would be healed, and she was to teach the lessons that she taught here, or she could go on. And she did not want to get back into her body. It was just a wasted mass of flesh and bones. But for some reason, she went back in at her father's persuasion. 5 days after coming out, she opened her eyes, and everyone was in shock. 5 days after that, they were trying to find. 5 days after she came out of the coma, 60% of her cancer had gone into remission. 4 weeks after she came out, she was totally out of the hospital completely. Today she lectures. She was on my public television special. Many of you may have seen it. And she's an angel on this earth. And what she learned in this near-death experience was that all we have to do is treasure our own magnificence and recognize that God is not something out there that is within us. There's nothing for us to do. There's no job for you to do. You don't have to win. You don't have to be anybody. Who in this room has cancer? Somebody does. Where? Anyone? Where are you? Come on up. I'd like to give this to you. Have you read this? Well, I'd like to give this to you as a gift. What is your name? Kelly? This is going to change your life. I'd like you to say the words, I am well.
I am well.
I am perfect health.
I am perfect health.
God bless you. Namaste. They have them in the back. It's a must read, especially if you have anybody who is in the position that my mom has been in for the last year or two. And or even has any kind of illness at all. Or as when I talked to Reed about publishing this book, I said, the potential audience for this is anyone who is ever going to die or knows anybody that is. And it's one of the most freeing, peaceful experiences to know that you're not here to accomplish anything. You're not here to be better than anybody else. You're not here to win. All you have to do is just love yourself. I mean, truly love how magnificent you are. And that's what I meant when Saint Germain spoke to me and said, it's all you have to do is spend 15 minutes being in a state of appreciation for the I am presence that you are. Now, one of the things that the I am discourse has taught that I was having trouble with this whole idea of manifesting is written on page 318. And I'd like to give this to you as we get ready to close. The student should constantly look within his human self and see what habits or creations are there that need to be plucked out and disposed of. For only by refusing to any longer allow habits of judging, condemning, and criticizing to exist can he be free. Are you hearing this? The true activity of the student is only to perfect his own world, and he cannot do it as long as he sees imperfection in the world of any of God's children. That includes the person who opened fire in Aurora. That includes Osama bin Laden. That includes Adolf Hitler. Any judgments that we have of judgment, criticism, and condemnation. And I wanted to manifest something so bad for such a long period of time, but the person that was involved in it, I kept having this sense of judgment toward this person. And it wasn't until I was able to say, I accept you for what you are. It's what led me to my father's grave in 1974. And I stood there after being sent there by a series of just absolutely impossible coincidences. I stood there on his grave after being filled with rage and hatred and anger and bitterness towards this man who would walk out on my mother and her 3 young boys. I was the youngest. And I finally found out about his death, that he had been dead 10 years, but I went to his grave in 1974 on August the 30th. And as I walked away from his grave, because I really went there to piss on his grave, I was so just filled with rage. And as I walked back to the rent-a-car, something called me back, and I went and stood there looking at this plate on the ground that said Melvin Lyle Dyer, 1914 to 1964. And something came over me. In fact, we've made a film about it, another film called My Greatest Teacher. And I was able to say to my father, from this moment on, I send you love. Who am I to judge you and condemn you? You did what you knew how to do, given the conditions of your life. And I accept you for it. Mark Twain once said that forgiveness is the fragrance that the violet sheds on the heel that has crushed it. On the heel that has crushed it. Enjoy it. My greatest teacher. Who was my greatest teacher? After that, my entire life changed. I stopped drinking. I started exercising. My writing shifted. I went back to New York. I was professor at St. John's University in New York City. I took 2 weeks to go down to Fort Lauderdale, Florida, checked into the Spindrift Motel, and wrote a book called Your Erroneous Zones in 14 days. 14 days. Today, there's close to 100 million copies in 47 languages around the world. And everything in my life after that shifted. My diet changed, my habits changed, everything turned around because I got the rage out of me. Because in order to attract the elements that are going to bring you the ability to manifest into your life what you want. Remember how I opened this program. We do not manifest what we want. That comes from a place of missing. We manifest what we are. The angels who will guide you throughout your life will only be there for you when they recognize themselves in you. And they cannot recognize themselves in you and guide you when you are filled with hatred, anger, judgment, condemnation, bitterness, fear, anxiety, stress. You have to let all of that go and be love. Be in this place of perfect divine love. Love for everything and everyone on our planet. That's self-actualization at work. And the principles for bringing this about into your life are the last 5 chapters of Wishes Fulfilled. But basically, what it says is, the greatest gift that you've ever been given is the gift of your imagination. Your imagination is yours to be able to do anything you want with. You can place any thought in there with the awareness of I am. There's a very famous poem about that moment of Moses speaking to God. It says, earth's crammed with heaven, and every burning bush afire with God. And those who truly know take off their sandals, while the rest sit round it and pick blackberries. It's your call. It's your call. So your imagination is the greatest gift that you've been given. And you can put anything in there. No one can tell you what can be there or what can't be there. Einstein said, imagination is greater than knowledge. And he said, if you want your children to have a great imagination, read them fairy tales. If you want them to be even smarter, read them more fairy tales. That's why I've written 5 children's books with that very idea in mind. The second thing is that you have to learn to live from the end. Whatever you have placed into your imagination, you have to act as if it already were your reality, independent of what anything or anyone else says. When I was told that I had this diagnosis of leukemia, I can't tell you how many people sent me condolence letters and sent me information about this disease and how it was incurable, and unfortunately this. And fortunately, I was given by my children a wonderful gift. It's called an iPad. And it's got this wonderful feature in it. It's called Delete. And then there's another feature of it. It's called Trash, which is really great. I'd like to have a button like that on me at any time, so that anytime anybody brings any information to you, you just push the trash button. It even makes a little sound. It goes, whoop, hit delete, and it's gone. I had this little scar that you see right here on the right side of my face. There was a skin cancer thing there, and I was going to the dermatologist, and they were going to cut this thing out. And I had a woman stop me, and she said, that's really bad. I said, what? It's just a little red mark here, and they're going to just cut it out, and it'll be fine. She said, no. She said, my girlfriend's husband, he had that. They had to cut his penis off. I said, just got a little red mark on my chin, and I couldn't possibly. Trash, right? You want to be very careful, because there's always people out there who are willing to send you messages about how terrible something is going to be. The third of these principles is the principle of, I call it, assuming the feeling of the wish fulfilled. You must be able to feel it, because every time that you feel something within your body, you give a instruction to your subconscious mind. And your subconscious mind is the part of you where you do all of your living. You want to redo your subconscious mind. Now, I jotted down for the last principle. I have 5 minutes left. And it's this is from the book of Job. Now, tonight, I'm going to give you guys such a gift. Tonight and every night for the rest of your life, I want you to take the last 5 minutes before you go off to sleep and realize that you are about to program your subconscious mind. All right? Your subconscious mind is most at home when you are unconscious, when you are asleep. If you spend the last 5 minutes of your day, which so many people do, reviewing all of the things that you don't like, and all the things that didn't work out, and how terrible you feel, and who abused you, and who was mean to you, and who said this, and they did this, and you're constantly doing this kind of thing with your mind, then you are programming your subconscious mind that when you awaken, because you're now about to marinate for the next 8 hours in your subconscious mind. And then when you awaken, you will rejoin the universal subconscious mind, the mind of God, from which we all originated. We're all just individualized personal expressions of that one thing that we call the Tao, or God, or divine mind, or soul, or spirit. But the Tao that can be named is not the Tao. So you want to be real careful about how you program your subconscious mind. This is from the book of Job. In a dream, in a vision of the night, when deep sleep falls upon men, while slumbering on their beds, then he opens the ears of men and seals their instruction. Job 33, 15 and 16. When you are slumbering on your bed, he opens your ears and seals your instruction. What you place into your subconscious mind as you are about to go into this deep slumber is all dependent upon what you do the last 3 or 4 or 5 minutes before you go off to sleep. You want to place into your imagination whatever you have placed into the I am that I spoke about earlier. I am well. I am content. I am peaceful. I am happy. I am prosperous. I am abundant. I am God. I am God. I am God. Because at the basic core, each and every one of us are just that. Okay, so we just have a couple of minutes left. I want to do just it's like if you just close your eyes and just listen to this meditation. It's from the book 3 Magic Words. Here's what I'd like you to say to yourself at night. I know that I am pure spirit, that I always have been, and that I always will be. There is inside me a place of confidence and quietness and security where all things are known and understood. This is the universal mind, God, of which I am a part, and which responds to me as I ask of it. This universal mind knows the answer to all of my problems. And even now, the answers are speeding their way to me. I needn't struggle for them. I needn't worry or strive for them. When the time comes, the answers will be there. I give my problems to the great mind of God. I let go of them, confident that the correct answers will return to me when they are needed. Through the great law of attraction, everything in life that I need for my work and fulfillment will come to me. It is not necessary that I strain about this, only believe. For in the strength of my belief, my faith will make it so. I see the hand of divine intelligence all about me, in the flower, the tree, the brook, the meadow. I know that the intelligence that created all these things is in me and around me, and that I can call upon it for my slightest need. I know that my body is a manifestation of pure spirit, and that spirit is perfect. Therefore, my body is perfect also. I enjoy life, for each day brings a constant demonstration of the power and wonder of the universe and myself. I am confident, I am serene, I am sure. No matter what obstacle or undesirable circumstance crosses my path, I refuse to accept it, for it is nothing but illusion. There can be no obstacle or undesirable circumstance to the mind of God, which is in me, around me, and serves me now. This is the great lesson. Know this within you. When Herman Melville was writing Moby Dick, he wasn't writing about a man looking for a whale. He was writing about a man, Ahab, trying to find his higher self. He said these words, "For as this appalling ocean surrounds the verdant land, so in the soul of man lies one insular Tahiti, full of peace and joy, but encompassed by all of the horrors of the half-lived life." In every moment of your life as you leave here today, you have this choice. You can either be a host to God or a hostage to your ego. It's your call. Thank you. God bless you. Namaste. Thank you.